Hey everybody, welcome back to Tavian's World of Reptiles. I hope you are all doing well and taking care of yourselves. I do want to say that I am sorry for there not being any animals in my recent videos. First, I was here kind of working on the new reptile room, and then I fed my animals yesterday, so now they're out of commission again. So for 2 days, so you won't see them, but I'll definitely keep trying to put those little random snake clippages in there that I got stored away, just kind of with some music so I can at least get you guys your fix of seeing some snakes, so it won't be too long without you go without seeing them. So that being said, today we're actually going to be talking a little bit more about just, well, me. Now, often we are asked, how is it that we got started into wanting to keep reptiles? And, for many of us, that story is all sorts of different things. And some of us, it was just a matter of wanting to catch them when we were young and always loving them. And some of us, it's we grew into them later on in life. We've all got our different stories. But I wanted to share a part of my story and how, not necessarily when I started to keep reptiles, but more so the moment I knew that it was even possible to keep reptiles. I definitely always wanted to keep them. I always caught them in the wild, always wanted to keep them. But I thought, for the most part, I thought I was just pretty strange and kind of mean for even wanting to do that, for wanting to have these animals that were wild to be in my home where I could watch them all the time. I didn't know that there were other people out there that actually thought or wanted to do the same thing. But there was a period when I learned that this was the case, and this was actually from reading a book. Now, it was, I was thinking maybe late elementary school or early middle school. I was reading this series, and this was a very long series. It was like 13 or some odd books, maybe even more. But it was, it was like a middle school grade book, right? And it was called A Series of Unfortunate Events. That was what it was called, A Series of Unfortunate Events. And apparently it was about these orphan kids. Their parents had died in the fire, and then after that they just had some really rotten luck with the placements that they were put in, with the different people who were supposed to take care of them. Just one bad thing after another. It was like a freaking avalanche. It just never stopped. And so eventually, though, they did land somewhere with one of their guardians, and this guardian was the one that changed it all for me. This particular book, it was called, and I should have known, it was called Series of Unfortunate Events, The Reptile Room. And I was very excited to read this book. I don't know what it was about at this point, but I was very excited to read it. And by the time it was all done, my life was changed forever. This character that they ended up living with, his name is Uncle Monty, and he is a part of the Herpetology Association in the book. And he has got this massive, massive glass room that is just full of reptiles and odds and in this roaming iguana, and this, at some point he's got this really giant snake that he calls the incredibly deadly viper. And I don't remember what the word for it is, but this name does not at all match the snake. Like, it's a false name. There's a word for it. Don't remember what it's called. It's said in the book, and I just don't remember what it is right now. But this incredibly deadly viper is a giant snake, but it is just the sweetest puppy dog snake you ever met. It ends up snuggling with the baby at some point. But anyway, the point is, there is this character who is a part of this association that apparently studies all sorts of reptiles and stuff. And I mean, he's worried about people trying to steal his ideas. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. There are other people who are studying these reptiles as well. Like, there's an association. I don't even know what that is. Anyway, I read this book so many times because it was just mind blowing for me to think that here was a character that was living the life I've always dreamed about wanting to live, and I didn't even think was possible to live. And for me at this point, it was still just like not possible because this is just a book character, but it was still something to actually fantasize about. And eventually, something clicked to decide, well, I'm just going to look it up. I'm going to look up herpetology associations and stuff like that. And I actually looked up the words. And it's a thing, and this, there was a community, and people were keeping animals, and people were studying animals, and there's associations out there protecting these animals and actually keeping them in their homes. Now, of course, by this point, I think we were just about shifting away from the heavy use of shoe boxes, as this sole way of keeping these animals. And I think we were, I feel like we were just about at the like fish tank stage of it all. I remember definitely getting a fish tank for my first ball python. It was the most commonly suggested thing. So I was definitely in this era of it all. But ultimately, this was a thing, this was a community that existed, and there were people out there who actually kept these reptiles and bred these reptiles so that other people can keep these reptiles. And I was absolutely blown away. And from then on, I just knew it. I knew that I wanted to live the life of Uncle Monty. I wanted to have a big room one day just full of reptiles, and I wanted to discover some snake and name it something ridiculous like the incredibly deadly viper, even though it's not a viper and it's not deadly. But I've since kind of shifted away from that thought process, because that requires quite a lot of schooling, as well as a lot of like tramping through areas that I probably, in environments I don't really want to be through. I mean, I definitely want to go through some of the environments. I would love to go herping in some tropical places, but they're just some of those environments I'm not trying to go. I'm not trying to go in. But so that's not the field for me. But ultimately, I still want my reptile room. I want Uncle Monty's life with just a giant room full of reptiles. And so that's what really has me super excited, specifically about this new space that I'm getting. Because right now, I mean, my room is my reptile room, and everywhere I've been, it's been my reptile room, because it's like my bedroom, or my bed that is literally surrounded by like reptile enclosures, and it's just kind of steadily grown since then. And I know, and that's been great, but I would love to just have a place that's separated from my home, and that I can just go in and just like look around and have wall to wall reptiles, and even have a free roaming iguana one day in the far future. Actually, preferably at this point, my thoughts have shifted to wanting a tegu, so something like that. But like this story started it all for me. I've often even thought like of changing my social media name to being like the real Uncle Monty. You know how there's like the real Tarzan, the real Mowgli. I don't understand, but I've often thought about being the real Uncle Monty, but I don't think there's enough people out there who actually would get that reference. It'd kind of be an inside joke. I know my best friend back home in Portland absolutely knows what I'm talking about. She's one of the first people that brought that really to my attention, that I was like Uncle Monty. And so it's been spinning in there in my head as a thing. But yeah, so I don't know why it's not much. It's not much. This is not much to be sharing, but I definitely was very excited to kind of share that a little bit about myself, and like where my passion for actually wanting to keep these animals, and knowing that I could actually keep these animals, like, because I'd always wanted it, yes, but to know that it was possible, to know that this community even existed, was just kind of a mind blowing thing, and it was a life altering thing for me, and that it really changed everything. If I hadn't learned that this was even a thing, I might never have even thought of actually keeping reptiles. And I think about that, and I wonder how many people out there love animals like this, but don't even really know that they can actually keep them. Like, and I don't know, I doubt it. I doubt there's very many, but there could be. There could be people out there who don't know that it's possible to actually keep these animals and observe them for yourself in your home, as your pets. And so I definitely want to spread awareness and spread love and get all the people out there who's afraid of snakes, not afraid of snakes. This book started it all for me. And so, yeah, there you go. I'm rambling. I'm rambling. There it is. It's ramble time. So I'm wrapping it up. You guys take care. Love yourselves. Love your loved ones. Love your reptiles. And you guys keep spreading those herbs.